If you're thinking about becoming a yoga therapist, one of the first questions you're probably asking is this: how much does a yoga therapist actually make? Are we talking about something like $20,000 a year as a small side hustle or practice, or $80,000 or more as a full-time profession? The truth is that yoga therapy income can fall across a wide range, depending on how someone structures their work. So in this video, we're going to talk honestly about how yoga therapists actually earn income, the different professional models we see practitioners build, and what realistic expectations look like as someone develops this work. I'm Brandt.
And I'm Anna, and we're co-directors of the Breathing Deeply Yoga Therapy School, where we've been training yoga therapists to work with real clients experiencing complex health challenges since 2011. So we'll begin with me asking you a question, Brandt. When people ask about yoga therapist salaries, I think part of what they're really wondering is whether yoga therapy is actually becoming a real professional field. From your perspective, working clinically, how do you see that evolving?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yoga therapy is increasingly being integrated into conversations around like integrative healthcare, chronic pain support, mental health. We're seeing yoga therapists collaborate with healthcare providers and mental health professionals, working in wellness clinics and community health programs. As interest in mind-body approaches continues to grow, the need for practitioners who understand how to apply yoga therapeutically and responsibly also grows. And this is like really so different than when I started decades ago. People weren't even interested in talking to us. So it's very exciting. One important thing to understand is that yoga therapy income doesn't usually look like traditional salary, although we are seeing more of that. Most yoga therapists build their work around client care, which can take several forms depending on the practitioner. Some practitioners work one-on-one with clients. Some run therapeutic programs using yoga therapy. Some collaborate with clinics or healthcare providers. And many combine yoga therapy with other professional roles. So instead of a single salary number, it's often more useful to think of how practices are structured, really. One way to think about yoga therapy income is through the structure of private practice. Someone might begin by working with around 8 clients per week, which could represent a smaller part-time practice. As practitioners gain experience and referrals grow, they might eventually work with 15 or even 20 clients a week. And often people will combine that with workshops or programs that help people in that way. Of course, these are just examples to illustrate how practices can be structured. And the income really varies widely depending on experience, your specialization, and of course, where you live. But you work closely with students and graduates. So what kinds of professional paths are you seeing people develop?
We actually see a lot of varied outcomes when students graduate from our programs. Some graduates will build private practices or even supplement with private practices, working one-on-one with clients. Others integrate yoga therapy into the work that maybe they had already been doing or start to do while they're in our program. They're yoga teachers, mental health practitioners. We see PTs and OTs and nurses and wellness professionals integrating yoga therapy into their work. We also see graduates working in more structured settings. And you know this, for example, we have graduates working in VA programs supporting veterans, and others participate in other kind of community programs, collaborating with school districts or therapists or physicians, integrative medicine clinics, nonprofit organizations. So the professional landscape is pretty varied.
Something interesting happens when people begin exploring yoga therapy as a profession. Many people assume that becoming a yoga therapist requires coming from a medical background, maybe. But in reality, many or even most yoga therapists begin as yoga teachers, or maybe they're wellness professionals, or coaches, or mental health professionals. And even sometimes people just are really drawn to doing the work as they understand the model.
Yeah. And these people already have skills that translate naturally into therapeutic work. Our training helps them learn how to apply yoga more systematically and therapeutically.
Yeah, so for some people watching this video, the idea of working therapeutically with individuals through yoga might feel like really natural. And for others, they haven't done it yet, but they're, oh, I would like to do that, I think. That would be a real shift from what I'm doing now, possibly.
Another important thing I think to understand is that yoga therapy practices usually develop gradually. So many practitioners begin by working with a smaller number of clients while they build experience and confidence. Of course, if you're already working one on one, that confidence might already be there. But over time, as they gain experience and referrals increase, their practices tend to grow. So sometimes they'll expand into therapeutic group programs, workshops, clinic collaborations, specialized wellness programs. So the professional path tends to evolve as the practitioner develops.
Yeah. It's also important to add that honestly, yoga therapy isn't like a really fast way to make a lot of money. I don't think most people are interested in yoga therapy because they want to make 9-figure incomes. But like many meaningful professions, it develops gradually as people and practitioners gain experience and build trust with the people they work with. And for many practitioners, the deeper value of this work comes from the ability to help people in profound ways while building a meaningful professional life. Another factor that strongly influences professional success is the depth of the therapeutic training that people have taken. Working with people experiencing complex health challenges requires more than simply knowing a bunch of yoga techniques. It requires understanding of how symptoms develop, how therapeutic practices can support meaningful change. And that's why strong training programs focus on developing clinical reasoning and therapeutic frameworks. So at our school, we've structured our training around what we call the Breathing Deeply clinical method. And over time, this framework has become the foundation of how we train our yoga therapists. The method focuses on developing 3 core competencies.
The first is holistic pattern assessment. Students learn how to understand the deeper patterns contributing to a client's condition.
The second is skillful therapeutic design, where students really learn how to create practices tailored specifically to the individual person they're working with.
And the third is guided clinical practice. Students develop these skills while working with real practicum clients and receiving mentorship and supervision from experienced yoga therapists. So, one of the most interesting things we observe in our training is how students evolve as they begin working with clients. At first, many students might feel uncertain, but as they work with more clients and receive mentorship, going into their depth of knowledge and experience, something begins to shift. Students start recognizing patterns more easily, they gain confidence designing therapeutic programs, and they begin to see meaningful changes in the people that they're working with, which is always very inspiring for them to continue the work.
Yeah, and it's always amazing to watch a student do this. One example in our practicum, a client came in with insomnia and balance issues. They had been to several doctors and not been able to find a resolution. And one of our Breathing Deeply therapists was able to pan back and review this person's story. They assessed them with the BDYT model. And through that, we're able to develop an approach that with a little refinement after the first couple sessions, then solved both of these issues in a matter of weeks, which was, of course, amazing for this person. But what's even more amazing is that this isn't an uncommon outcome. This was the Breathing Deeply yoga therapy method really in action. And so to see someone go from being like a little sheepish about working with individual clients to solving a big problem like that is like quite something.
Yeah.
And we see it often. So over the years, students in our programs have worked with thousands of practicum clients across many different conditions. Across those cases, we've observed an 86% positive outcome rate. We recently did a study, meaning the client experienced meaningful improvement in the issue they were seeking help with. These cases come from supervised practicum work using the Breathing Deeply clinical method. Of course, yoga therapy isn't a medical cure, and the outcomes do vary depending on the individual and the conditions. But these results really strongly suggest that when yoga therapy is applied thoughtfully through a structured clinical framework, it can make a really big difference in people's lives.
So I'll share a story too, since we're sharing stories, and there are so many to highlight in terms of
Mhm.
graduates. And I always suggest to prospective students to check out our alumni page for more. But one example that I'll share includes two of our graduates who started a private yoga therapy practice for mental health, and they networked with mental health professionals. And in less than 2 years, they had built, this was now a while ago, a full-time yoga therapy business, employing not just themselves, but with the need and growing referrals coming in, they've needed to hire other yoga therapists as well. Another not so entrepreneurial example is a graduate who's working full-time in a state-funded program focusing on working with victims of violent crime. So we're seeing more and more opportunities like that grow.
Because the field grows, we see more opportunities coming.
Mm.
Definitely. If you're watching this video, there's a good chance that you're interested in developing deeper therapeutic skills through yoga and are interested in developing, expanding, or shifting into a career that includes yoga therapy.
Wherever you are in your thinking, in your process, the key question isn't simply what yoga therapists earn. It's whether the training that you're getting helps you develop real skill and confidence in helping people. And this is what translates into career outcomes and then also how you make money.
If you're exploring yoga therapy as a possible professional path, we've created a brief free training where we explain how yoga therapy certification works and how students develop real therapeutic skills.
And in this free walkthrough, you'll see how students move through our foundations program, our advanced programs, how practitioners build confidence working with real clients, and what the pathway into this work actually looks like.
You could find the link right below this video.
And the training will give you a much clearer sense of whether this path feels right for you.
Thank you so much for listening to this video, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Thanks for watching.